The last position group we get to hear from this spring are the tight ends. New tight end coach Russ Callaway. We'll get to hear from him, plus Arlis Boardingham, and the spring game roster has been announced. We'll get into all that right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC, tight ends, spring game roster. We got it all right here to kind of wrap up spring practice before the orange and blue game on Thursday night. So if you're on the way to Gainesville tomorrow, when this is being recorded on Wednesday, if you're on the way to Gainesville, you can maybe hopefully listen to this on the way, or if you're catching a replay or whatever. Thank you so much. But we got a roster to talk about that was released not long before recording this episode. And we'll get into this last position group that we haven't heard much from as far as, players involved. And of course, the new coach, Russ Callaway, they're being announced. So maybe quick episode around, if you're watching live on YouTube at 8:00, Florida Victorious, the new NIL group in charge, leading the way there at Florida. Nate Barbera is going to join me, the CEO of Florida Victorious. So I'll call it on this epressode, and then I'll come right back live with another episode tonight. So busy time right here on Gators Breakdown, wrapping up spring practice right before the orange and blue game. And then, of course, the big announcement with Florida Victorious in the NIL space. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. All these episodes coming your way right here on Gators Breakdown. Enjoying Gators Breakdown Plus. Also, if you haven't done so yet, a lot of conversation, of course. Recruiting going on around this week as well. A lot of hot topics there on the Discord, and just we'll be talking that spring game right there in that Discord as well on Thursday night. So, all right, let's get straight to it. Of course, Keon Zipperer now missing the rest of the season. Odom dealing with his injury as well, missing spring. Xanders has been dealing with an injury too this spring. So Florida, for the second spring in a row, been kind of beat up at the tight end position. But even before the spring, you guys know I've been on the hype train of one Arlis Boardingham, and it kind of seems that has taken place this spring here at the tight end position. So and also Xanders was dealing with the position change, last season. So not a ton of experience at the position now. So yeah, you're young. Because, when Odom comes back, of course, he played a lot last year. We'll see what his timetable is. And you're going to be relying on some young guys. And we'll get into that right here on this episode. But first, let's go back to Russ Callaway, the new tight end coach for the Gators. William Pigler on his way out. Russ Callaway comes in. And I tell you what, I'm excited for his offensive background, for what he was able to do as an offensive coordinator at the FCS level, leading those offenses there. We get to hear from him right here. But as becoming the tight end coach, the offense that Billy Napier runs, and working with Billy Napier.
That's extremely exciting. I've had the chance to work with Coach Napier at Alabama in 2011, 2012, and we've kind of carried our relationship over. And that was a big reason why I chose to come down here after leaving the Giants, is I want to be with a good person that knew ball, knew people, and was a joy to be around and work for. And I'm thankful for the opportunity, and look forward to doing some good things.
So how would you characterize the use of the tight end in Billy's offense?
Yeah, the way I look at it is, the reason why I think Coach Napier is so good is he's always going to scheme up the best players on the team to get the ball. So we have ways to get tight ends the ball. We have ways to get the running backs, the receivers, so forth and so on. I think too many people just see what they see on Saturday, and they just assume, they don't involve the tight end, or they don't involve the receivers, whatever. Coach Napier's a great coach. He's a great scheme guy, great fundamentals and everything. He's going to get the best players the ball, the ones that give us the best chance to win. What we do offensively is it's not easy, but it's good once you learn it, because we have tools and answers for everything. And I think that's what part of the reason why we're so successful, and Coach Napier's been so successful, is because once problems arise and they occur, he has a way to fix it. And once that first year system is quote unquote under your belt, after spring ball, fall camp, you kind of saw the wheels turning. Then all of a sudden, we get to the first first week before the game, then all of a sudden it's starting to click, and those guys are starting to play fast and make plays. You know, we typically play with a Y and a H. The Y is more of a bigger body that can do some inline blocking and is usually bigger in stature. The H is more of a not quite as big, is a quote unquote a little bit more of a receiving type tight end. But we have ways to get the Y of the ball. We have ways to get the H of ball. So typically, if you were to draw it up, you would want the Y to be the bigger blocking type that has good hands, can make plays in the pass game, and the H is the guy that you can usually extend out of the formation, create mismatches, which is kind of what you saw a little bit last year and probably what we'll see a little bit more of this year. The thing that separates Coach Napier from all those guys. Kirby, I worked with Jeremy Pruitt, Coach Saban, all those guys I was with that was there. I would say Coach Napier is truly a cut from all of it, like recruiting, system, person, coach, scheme. Like he's the perfect blend of all the good things that those guys bring to the table. Not to talk bad about anybody because they're tremendous coaches, but that's, again, part of the reason why I think Coach Napier's so good is because he's got a little bit of everything, and I think it's just a matter of time. In year two, we're going to see some growth.
There we go. High praise there from Callaway towards Billy Napier, and working with him for his career back at Alabama, coming to him with Florida last year, now translating it to this year as well. Now an on-field coach and being able to kind of share his knowledge of, he had an exciting passing game there at the FCS level. So, I think maybe hopefully they can lean on him too. So look, we're all looking to see this tight end group take a leap and take a jump in production, and maybe hopefully some of that is due to some of the weapons that you have, and Billy Napier, not a heavy history, of course, of leaning on the tight ends in the passing game, but now maybe with somebody like an Arlis Boardingham, who we'll get even more into coming up this episode of, you have a versatile weapon like that. You decide to use him. Callaway explains the offense, says, hey, if the weapons are there, we're going to find a way to use it. Okay, well, we'll need to see that. If you have that weapon like Boardingham waiting in the wings, and we saw Zipper, flashes last year, especially the Tennessee game. AR finds him and he, makes the play himself there. So, hopefully even a lot more design to get the tight ends involved here. You heard him mention why the Y spot for the tight end, the bigger body, the H, quote unquote, H back, more of that receiving tight end. So there's going to be 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field. And it's probably the way you're looking at it now, if they are healthy, Dante Sanders in that Y, Arlis Boardingham in that H. If they're on the field at the same time, that's kind of the way you'll see it. If those are your top 2 tight ends, which I kind of believe they are, Hayden Hansen, which we'll get into in just a second, too, making a move. Jonathan Odom comes back as well to maybe kind of fill both those roles there. So hopefully some depth comes back just because Florida gets healthy and stays healthy at the tight end position. But some high praise there from Russ Callaway and working with Billy Napier. And hopefully all that high praise is, comes to fruition, and Billy Napier can transition from year 1 to year 2 and build on year 2 to be here at Florida for a very, very long time. Involve these tight ends as well. So Arlis Boardingham, definitely excited to see what he brings to the table. You guys could tell I was excited about him coming into the spring. I'm ready to see him unleash. I think Thursday night will probably be an opportunity to see that unleashed in the spring game format, but we do need to see that translate. We've heard his name come up a bit in all the practice notes there. We need to come up and see that in the spring game if we can, but it needs to translate where we hear it in fall camp and we see it, Arlis Boardingham's name on the stat sheet, or any tight end's name on the stat sheet come fall. Graham Mertz back at Wisconsin, loves throwing to his tight ends. If he's the guy, is he going to be looking for the tight ends when he drops back to pass? So I do think, if you can adapt to your talent, you got a different quarterback. I think you got a pass-catching weapon tight end. If you have the talent at the tight end position, Russ Callaway says Billy Napier will adjust. We'll get the balls to the tight ends. We got to go see it happen. So we'll keep it going right here, and we'll go to some players right here in discussing the guys that have had to step up so far. Russ Callaway says the tight end position has handled the Zipper injury very well, better than anticipated. Credits to coaching staff for the structure of practice, meetings, walkthroughs, having the players ready to go when something like an injury happens. The guys respond. So because of the reps, because of the atmosphere of practice where there's no days off in that setting, The spring game is more of a step back because it's more of a game setting, less reps, practice is harder, maybe a breath of fresh air in this orange and blue game. And that should translate to where you see some young guys, of course, Arlis Boardingham, Hayden Hansen, Dante Zanders. There's your main three. We'll get into the roster in just a bit. But, those are the guys that will be getting a majority of the reps. And these players have taken advantage of the reps now. Arlis Boardingham, Hayden Hansen. So here's Callaway and Arlis Boardingham on that pair.
With Arlis, he's extremely gifted. He's a unique player that can do a lot of different things. He can run block, he can pass block, he can run routes, he can catch the ball, he can make plays with the ball in his hand. The big thing with Arlis, and I was telling somebody earlier, is, he's in a position and a role now that he is we want him to be a junior or a senior, but in reality, he's a redshirt freshman. And it's our job as coaches to move him along as fast as we can. I think the most improvement, though, has been in the meeting room, just from a maturity standpoint on the field. He has taken more of a leadership role at a young age, but I think that speaks to the type of person that he is and the type of competitor that he is. So I would say really more from that standpoint, I've seen his growth.
On the way you describe him, Hayden just kind of looks like a Y, but obviously a former quarterback has had to make the move. Where have you seen the most growth from him?
Really all the way around. He's done a tremendous job. He's, like you said, a former quarterback. He's a very bright young man. Being a quarterback, you wouldn't think he'd be as physical as he is, but he is. He is extremely physical, does a really nice job in the run game, and to be a bigger guy, has smooth and soft hands, and can make plays in the pass game. So really just all the way around with him. He was kind of in a backseat role last year. Now he's been kind of thrust forward, and I've been really impressed with Hayden. I really have.
I feel like Hayden is a great blocker. I feel like being his size and his frame, that he's a really good blocker. And with that blocking comes my speed, that I'm able to block as well. But again, you put a linebacker on me, then scary things might happen.
So do you think this spring game on Thursday is somewhat of a big opportunity for the both of you to kind of showcase your talent?
Definitely. I feel like it's a big opportunity for all the guys. All of us haven't really been able to see the field last year, so I feel like this is a big opportunity for us to just show our talents to the world, see how far we came since last year.
There we go. Arlis, 6'3", 246. Hayden Hansen, 6'6", 259. I mean, there's your size right there from these two young tight ends here. And these are guys that are kind of having to be adjusted a bit. We'll get into it even more with Boardingham, but, transferring from more of a receiver to a tight end. Hayden Hansen, quarterback, now tight end. And Hansen, the guy we'll get in here to just a second before we go deep dive on Arlis Boardingham, but somebody, that's 6'6", 259, very athletic. I mean, so you sit there and maybe fit him into that Y role, that bigger body tight end role, where he's going to have to block, maybe get some receptions, but blocking is going to be the first and foremost aspect of being that Y spot tight end. So it's honestly, we'll look at it, and him and Zanders, I think, Zanders' experience from last year, being able to be a leader, there, Billy Napier very, very high on Dante Zanders. And of course, not the passing threat as a tight end, but did spring a lot of big runs last year because of what Zanders was able to do in the blocking game. You got to have that first. Hayden Hansen kind of, learning the ropes and taking advantage of some of the reps while Zanders nursing an injury this spring. Hayden Hansen, a big body. I mean, you'll find in the red zone, I think, in short yardage situations to where it's a passing down, maybe you get him involved there, fake the block or block and then run the route. I think, things you'll find where they can design this offense around him. But Hayden Hansen, how fast does he transition in making the move from, high school, not a lot of experience at tight end, to now coming to Florida, SEC, making that transition there. Be able to learn last year, not be forced in in that role. Now gets to, have benefit of the spring of all the reps there that the coaching staff throwing at him. So the one I'm excited about, we'll get to hear from him for the first time right here, kind of detailing his game a bit. One Arlis Boardingham right here on his game, his development right now at the tight end spot for the Gators.
Just embrace the opportunity I was given. I know we had some injuries come along during the spring camp and even from last year, so just to take the opportunity that I was given and try to make the most of it.
Well, how would you kind of describe your style of play? We don't get a whole lot of eyeballs on these practices.
I'd just say versatile. versatile tight end. I came in being a receiver at first, just playing receiver in high school, and just coming here, Coach Napier told me to trust the process, playing tight end, and just learning.
Did you bring wide receiver speed?
Definitely. Oh, definitely. Coming from track, definitely.
Okay, what track? Yeah, tell us.
Yeah. I ran track in high school. Was a big track guy. I ran track before I played football. Loved track all day. So I just feel like that speed is what makes me different from other tight ends. I think I've come along really far from where I came from, because I came from playing wide out in high school, not really blocking at all, not really having to be in the trenches or anything like that. So just this first year and this spring I really feel like I've gained a lot in the run blocking scheme.
You know which tight end played here recently that kind of followed a similar path, the wide receiver to tight end?
Kyle Pitts. Yeah, I was told he played receiver when he first got here, and then they switched him to tight end.
Draw a little inspiration from that?
Definitely. He was one of the reasons that I came here. I saw what he was doing in the recruitment trail when I was still being recruited, and I saw him, and that was something that I thought that I could do.
What's it been like just working with Coach Callaway, as he's taken over the room?
It's definitely been, I would say, interesting, because he's a great coach, and he definitely brings something different to the table. I would say, like you said, the emphasis on the run. We definitely been working the run, and I feel like we've been doing a great job at that again. And I just feel like we're getting real serious in that room, and I feel like it's going to be something special.
And then he also said you took a little bit of a leadership role. I mean, of course, with the injuries,
right,
and allowing you having an opportunity. Can you kind of just talk about being a leader in just year two?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely been. If he'll tell you I had to do a lot of growing up real fast, and I feel like it was something that I asked for, though. Although it came quick, it was something that I saw myself doing. I feel like the younger guys who really are the same age as me, but just coming in, I feel like I've taken a bigger role and just helping them, just going along, just helping them with the little things, the details that might be slipped through that you might not get just from playing with everything going on in college football.
Yeah, you heard Callaway mention it earlier. Boardingham's going to become a leader already as a second-year player under Billy Napier. Now, the guys at safety last year, they do have some experience. They played some roles, but, you're looking at, safeties back there who are in their second year. Kamari Wilson and Miguel Mitchell, guys in their second year, they got to be leaders back there in that safety room. They're already kind of maybe fast-tracking Arlis Boardingham to maybe be on that as well, maybe because he forced to be because of the injury situation, but also as the guys, even before Zipper went out with the injury and stuff, we were previewing spring high on Arlis Boardingham. Spring practice starts, first few practices, Arlis Boardingham's name is coming up, and then all throughout spring practice as well. So, you hope that he has those leadership traits if he's going to be out there on the field producing as a tight end, and hopefully more so than last year. Of course, you go back to last year. Keon Zipper, of course, injured 8 games, but 13 catches in those 8 games. You're not going to jump off the page at you. Dante Zanders, not your receiving tight end. I'm not really going to be looking at Dante Zanders as, and making a determination of Billy Napier's offense. Those 2 tight ends, and one of them, especially one like Dante Zanders, not going to get a whole lot of passes his way. 13 games, only 10 catches. Okay, that's what it is. In this offense. And then, of course, Jonathan Odom comes along, 9 games, 7 catches there for him. So, we like to see if the guys are available and they're producing, and Billy Napier feels like he can rely on them. Hopefully, we do see the more than 13 catches, 10 catches, 7 catches. Somebody from Arlis Boardingham, from what we're hearing, hopefully it does translate more into that, to where at times talking around, asking around people, unguardable at times. And you heard him; he's very confident in using that track speed that he has. He hopes somebody puts a linebacker on him. He's very confident. You can't cover me with a linebacker. So hopefully, and that's the way football's going now. And the mismatch that we seem to go with the big-bodied slasher types, where the tight end can be a wide receiver if you want to look at him in certain ways. You heard the Kyle Pitts mentioned there. Okay, that's a lofty name, a lofty comparison to put up there. Not to say be Kyle Pitts, but maybe be like Kyle Pitts, but different styles here. Kyle Pitts, one of the best to ever do it. Not putting that pressure, not putting that comparison on one Arlis Boardingham, but can he be a mismatch like that? Can you line him up and he used that big body to tower over a cornerback or a safety? Can he use his speed to run away from a linebacker and be that mismatch problem speed-wise? So those are the things, of course, you're looking at to maybe, be there. That wasn't necessarily there last year, and no matter Keon Zipper there anyway, maybe production there in year 2, used to the offense now, figuring out what you have from the coaches and the players developing, getting that second year under their belt where they take not a lot of experience. Definitely not a lot of experience in this room, especially when Zipper goes down. There's just not a ton of experience. So a lot of this is going to just be potential. We hear about this, and we've heard for years, no matter what spring it is, no matter what team it is, there's always that guy we hear about in spring practice, and it never really comes to fruition. No, that's not saying that's what's going to happen with Arlis Boardingham here. I absolutely hope that's not what's going to happen here. For the sake of, I think he can really help, whoever the quarterback is. A tight end can be your best friend, especially if he's that short yardage mismatch there. If he, can shield off, big body a defender away, or use that speed to outrun a tight end on those little drag. We've seen the drag routes in this offense, and I'm sure are certainly going to be a big part of this offense. Still use that speed to get across the field in those 4, 5, 6 yard routes and see, be your quarterback's best friend, not so far down the field. So can we hit that on a more consistent basis? Be that chain mover. So absolutely, I'm excited about the potential of this group, especially Arlis Boardingham. Maybe Jonathan Odom comes back as well. Gives you another depth piece there for the Gators. But right now, you look at Tony Livingston as well, was supposed to come in last class, held off, came in on this class. So he's young. This is his quote unquote first year with the program as well. So once Zipper goes down, you're really just relying on a lot of youth and a lot of inexperience, throwing Xanders in there as well with only 1 year under his belt, and that being a position change at the same time. So, there are numbers if you get everybody healthy, but still a lot to be proven with this group. But I expect maybe like last year, what we see in the spring game, though, those guys are heavy targets. And we'll see where it goes there. But I do think they can help the quarterback a bit. I like that versatile piece. Can it be more of a weapon than Zipper was last year? I think that's what we're at least the base that we're looking for from the tight end position. If you're going to have more of a receiving threat at that position, can he bring more to the table than basically what we got from Keon Zipper last year? And I was even looking for the same for Zipper. Could he, build on his production last year? So we'll see where this offense goes. Where this offense goes in designing, getting the tight end the ball. But those guys got to do their job as well. All right, so there we go. We've heard from every coach. We've heard from most of the players that Florida gave us throughout spring practice. Hope you guys enjoyed hearing from the only time we'll hear from the coaches, the coaching staff, besides Billy Napier. He doesn't let them speak in the fall. So there we go. Good to hear from the first-timers there with Russ Callaway like that. The return of Billy Gonzalez. We went over the last episode, so good to hear from those guys there. But, hey, before we sign off, reminder, 8 o'clock, 30 minutes from now, come back here on Gators Breakdown. We'll talk some NIL with Florida Victorious. And let me pop it up. Here we go. Here's your rosters for the spring game, if you guys missed it or not. But here's the Orange team roster, and I would say this is probably your number ones. Most of your number ones. If you look, I quickly glanced at it. I was going to kind of almost reaction with you guys looking at the roster here. But we start with the offensive line: Austin Barber, Damian George, Najee Harris, Richie Leonard. 4 of those guys right there could be, Barber's going to start. As guys remember, Najee Harris, the true freshman, fighting for a starting job. Richie Leonard's in that fighting for a starting role. Damian George as well. So, Jake Slaughter, who I've been high on all spring. Kingsley Aguakan. So there's your first team. If you start right there, offensive line, mostly your first team right there. Quarterbacks: Graham Mertz, Jack Miller. If you see at the bottom there, denotes playing for both teams. So the quarterbacks, Jack Miller, Graham Mertz, your top 2 will be playing for both teams. I figured that was going to happen. Get both guys reps with the ones. No surprise there. Your running backs, another dead giveaway. This is your first team. You got Trevor Etienne. You got Montrell Johnson in the same backfield. So, and you go to wide receiver, Caleb Douglas, Xavier Henderson, Ricky Pearsall. I mean, yeah, this is your number one offense. So this is the one you'll be paying attention to the most right here, at least for the offense and how the offense is configured here. Because you go to the tight ends as well. Arlis Boardingham, Hayden Hansen, who we just discussed a good bit in this episode. They still got, Dante Sanders is in this tight end group as well for the Orange. Keon Zipperer still listed. Some of these injured players still listed. Cam Waits, Keon Zipperer, as you see there. If you go to the defensive side, Chris McClellan, Jamari Lyons, Will Norman, Des Watson. Guys who played McClellan and Watson played a lot of football last year. Jamari Lyons, can he break through as a depth piece on this defensive line? Edge, young players on the edge here. We get to see Kelby Collins, TJ Searcy, true freshman there to go along with second-year player Jack Pyburn for this Orange defense. Inside linebackers, a lot of experience here. If you look at this, Jaden Robinson, Deuce Spurlock, two first-year players for the Gators. Spurlock, the transfer from Michigan, of course. Jaden Robinson, the true freshman. Justin Pellick, a walk-on. Safeties, Jordan Castell, Jaden Hill, Bryce Thornton, Jamarcus West, and Dakota Mitchell. A lot of experience, of course. Not the Miguel Mitchells, the Kamari Wilsons of the world. So this is the Orange. Looks like your second team for the most part. Chris McClellan, Des Watson on the front. I mean, those guys are your number ones as well. But look at this transfer Florida has. That's why, look, guys, this is where I said I think that Florida's deeper on the defensive line. And you look at the Orange roster, and we'll go compare it to the blue. I mean, McClellan and Watson, those guys have played a lot of football last year, and they're going to play a lot of football this year. So defense, at least up front, on the defensive line, maybe a little bit kind of split between some of the ones, or who you would consider could be a one. Because you go to keep going defensive back for the Orange roster, Jakeem Jackson, Javion Toombs, so your defense, mostly, if you look at linebacker, you look at safety, you look at cornerback, you look at edge, not a lot of experience. Not a lot of experience with this Orange defense. So let's switch it over. Let's switch it over to the blue team. Offensive line, start right there. As you see the graphic, Keontae Goodwin, Will Harrod, Jordan Herman, Roger Kearney. So I said this kind of, lends you to believe this is kind of where your second team offense is. Your running backs, Cam Carroll, Trayon Webb. As we mentioned, quarterbacks. Now, this one is a bit different. They do have Max Brown as the first quarterback. Then Graham Mertz, Jack Miller, as we said. Those guys will be playing for both teams. Wide receivers, Marcus Burke, Jakal Bowman, Andy Jean, Aiden Mizell. There's your true freshmen that everybody's just waiting to see on Thursday night. Jaquavion Frazier's in that group as well. Tight ends here, Tony Livingston, Andrew Savanea. Defensive line, yep. Here you go. This is going to be a lot of your starters on defense. Caleb Banks, Cam Jackson, Jalen Humphreys, Tyreek Sapp leading the charge here on this defensive line for the blue team. At edge, you got Princely Umami Yellen, Justice Boone, Antoine Powell-Ryland, Cameron James, Bryce Capers. So this is where your experience comes in at the edge position with Princely and Boone and Antoine Powell-Ryland, Cameron James, a true freshman, learning from that group. All spring, gets to play with them in this spring game. Your inside linebackers, Shamar James, Taraja Mitchell, Manning Nunnery, Scooby Williams, Derek Wingo. Derek Wingo, of course, out for the spring. Safeties, Kamari Wilson, Miguel Mitchell, Jadarius Perkins, the nickels in that little role too. Sharif Denson at cornerback, Jalen Kimber, Jason Marshall. Do have cornerback Sharif Denson playing for both teams here. I didn't remember seeing him on the orange, but on the blue, he has a star beside him. So if I overlooked that, maybe I did, but I didn't remember seeing him there. But yeah, this is your first team defense. Keep going at cornerback one more time. Sharif Denson, Jalen Kimber, who's really come on toward the end of spring practice here. Jason Marshall, Devin Moore. So that inside linebacker, loaded right there, of course. And you compare it to the orange defense. Edge as well. So this is how you can tell it's your first team. Kamari Wilson, Miguel Mitchell, the safeties. Interesting to see, how they do that. Perkins with the nickel history there at safety, but Sharif Denson, who I've been hearing getting some reps at nickel at the same time, listed in the cornerback spot. So, these true freshmen, I do think, still more of an undefined role, and Sharif Denson can play both. But there you go. There is your roster breakdown for the orange and blue game right here, the day before the orange and blue game, right here on Gators Breakdown, giving you how it looks right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. But yeah, lots to and Jamarcus Weston, of course, switching positions at the defensive side of the ball is to see him, his first little glimpse there. How does he make that transformation from offense to defense? We always hear he's one of the fastest players on the team, but we don't see it. Could this be the position move that kind of unlocks it where we get to see it? But there you go. There was your look. If you were watching on YouTube, you got your little graphics Florida sent out. Put that together quickly right before we went live here. But really, really good stuff. Looking forward to the orange and blue game. I won't take too much out of it. Of course, we'll talk about it in its own little bubble, what it can mean, but making ultimate determinations off that. We know. You guys know. We know. You don't take too much from it. Great performances, bad performances, just hard to know. Hard to know. All right, that would do it. We call it right here on this episode of Gators Breakdown. If you're watching live, be back in about 20 minutes. Nate Barbera, CEO of Florida Victorious, Florida's new NIL venture, going to join me right here on Gators Breakdown. We'll talk NIL and the new look there for the University of Florida. I am your host of Gators Breakdown, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thank you for joining me on this episode of Gators Breakdown.